Hey guys, and welcome to the Broken Sword. Ancalagon the Black is considered the most powerful and infamous dragon in Middle-earth. He is also thought to have been the largest and greatest winged dragon to have ever lived. So in today's video we are going to look into everything we know about this dragon, and was he actually as big as we all think? Well, we are going to look into some evidence that may suggest otherwise. Let's get into it.
Worthy of Mordor.
So Ancalagon the Black was bred by Morgoth in the First Age. He was amongst the first of the dragons to have wings, a feature that made him tremendously more dangerous. He was intended to be the last line of defense for Angband during the War of Wrath. It was actually during the War of Wrath that Ancalagon made his first and only appearance. Eärendil had travelled to Valinor in an attempt to convince the Valar to try and overthrow Morgoth and rescue the severely outmatched and defeated elves. A host of Valinor was then assembled, consisting of the Vanyar and Noldor elves of Valinor, with Finarfin, Ingwion, and presumably Manwë and all of the Valar, and also the Teleri elves who agreed to sail the ships that carried this host to Beleriand, but they did not join the fight. I think it's important to point out here that it's not exactly confirmed that the Valar were present at all within this battle. It's just said that it was the host of the Valar, so there's a good chance that it could have just been the elves representing the force of the Valar and not actually the Valar themselves. Anyway, the host of Valinor met with the forces sent out by Morgoth and easily defeated the enemy. But as they approached the gates of the mighty Angband, Morgoth unleashed his latest and greatest creatures, the winged dragons, led by Ancalagon the Black. Their terrible onslaught was accompanied by lightning storms and tempests of fire. They drove back the Valar and nearly destroyed the entire host of the West. Fortunately, Eärendil came forth in his skyship along with the eagles of Manwë led by Thorondor. In the skies above Angband, they confronted the dragons, and Eärendil himself slew their leader, Ancalagon the Black, who destroyed the volcanic mountains of Thangorodrim with his fall. Angband was then levelled and Morgoth was captured. Now, I know what you're thinking. How is a mighty dragon that is so big that his fall would destroy mountains killed by a half-elf and some eagles? Well, let's look into this. I am sure many of you have seen, even throughout this video, many images of Ancalagon the Black that depict him as a huge, monstrous dragon, bigger than mountains, filling the sky with his unfathomable size. But if we analyse the text describing his death and the subsequent fall of the towers of Thangorodrim, then you could conclude that it was not actually the fall of the dragon that necessarily destroyed the mountains. In the Silmarillion, it's stated that before the rising of the sun, Eärendil slew Ancalagon the Black, the mightiest of the dragon host, and cast him from the sky, and he fell upon the towers of Thangorodrim, and they were broken in his ruin. I think it's pretty fair to assume from this that Ancalagon was so massive that he physically broke Thangorodrim, or the towers of it, purely with his mass. Just to clarify, Tolkien often used the word towers to describe mountains in his writing. It's also a little unclear whether Thangorodrim refers to one single mountain or a group of mountains, or the collection of them, hence the use of the word towers. I know this is getting a little confusing, but let's go back to the text. We are not actually told at all what it is in fact that broke the towers of Thangorodrim. However, in The Lord of the Rings, it is said, the First Age ended with the Great Battle, in which the host of Valinor broke Thangorodrim and overthrew Morgoth. So, now while this is clearly a brief summary of the battle, we have now gone from an unconfirmed assumption that the fall of the dragon is what destroyed the mountains, to the fairly explicit statement that the host of Valinor destroyed it. So, a possible interpretation of the quote from the Silmarillion is that the host of Valinor destroyed Thangorodrim in his, Ancalagon's, ruin. So, essentially what I'm trying to say is that, from what Tolkien originally wrote about Ancalagon, it's actually not really possible to determine his size, but we do know roughly how big Tolkien intended Smaug to be, as he drew this image for The Hobbit himself, and upon estimating the scale, Smaug is estimated to be somewhere between 15 to 18 meters long. Obviously, the Hobbit movies made him almost 10 times the size that he is in the books, mainly for dramatic effect. But the behind the scenes of the movies tell us that the movie version was anywhere between 130 and 142 meters long, so don't be confused by that. Now, by taking this previous information into account and also adding the fact that the Eagle Lord Thorondor would almost certainly be able to tear Smaug apart himself, we can assume that yes, Ancalagon the Black was pretty huge, and in my opinion, it's pretty likely that this image here is accurate. The images that make his opposition seem like insects to him are probably a bit exaggerated. So how exactly did Eärendil manage to kill him? We need to consider the power of the Silmaril that Eärendil had. And the wise have said that it was by reason of the power of that holy jewel that they came in time to waters that no vessels save those of the Teleri had known. And they came to the enchanted isles and escaped their enchantment. And they came into the shadowy seas and passed their shadows. And they looked upon Tol Eresi, the lonely isle, but tarried not. And at the last they cast anchor in the bay of Aldemar. And the Teleri saw the coming of that ship out of the east, and they were amazed, gazing from afar upon the light of the Silmaril, and it was very great. It's certainly not beyond reason to assume that the power of the Silmaril aided Eärendil in some manner, potentially having some direct part in the death of Ancalagon, even if it was just in some way fighting against the darkness and the storms that surrounded the dragon. It's also a good time to point something out here that I find very interesting. In The Song of Middle-earth, a book by David Harvey, he points out the similarities between this moment and another moment in The Lord of the Rings. This is a symbolic reenactment of Eärendil's part in the War of Wrath, as Eärendil descended with eagles to the siege of Thangorodrim and slew the monster dragon, Ancalagon the Black, so the light of Eärendil descends to the depths to confound the monster black spider Shelob. The use of the Starglass is a symbolic Third Age reenactment of the First Age mythological event. Now, while this does not give any evidence towards the size or power of Ancalagon, I thought it would be a nice little piece of information that you guys might enjoy. As I stated, there's not really a clear canonical answer to exactly how big he is, but I've used what information I can find to try and figure out as accurately as possible for you. Hopefully you enjoyed and got what you came here for. I'd also like to point you towards our video on the Wars of Beleriand if you're interested in learning any more about the War of Wrath. Also, I haven't done this in a while. In fact, I'm not even sure I've done it on this channel, but I'd like to gauge interest for a video on Eärendil. In my opinion, he's an extremely interesting character and important one, so a video on him could be fun. Let's say if this video can reach the rather difficult goal of 3,500 likes, then we will know that you guys definitely want to see the video, so smash that like button if you want to see it. Anyway, my question for you guys today is this. Would you have liked to have seen more of Ancalagon throughout other battles, or are you glad he only featured in just the one? Was he perhaps too overpowered to be kept alive any longer? Obviously that was Tolkien's decision to make, but it's always fun to discuss these possibilities and alternate universes, if you will. Before we thank our patrons, I want to remind you once again that we have a new channel, The Batcave. The content is similar to what we do on this channel, but based purely on the characters from the Batman and DC universe. I would be absolutely over the moon if you guys would go and check it out, and if it's of any interest to you, subscribe. It would really help us out, and I would appreciate it so much. Okay, time has come as always to thank our patrons. A big shout out goes to the members of the 3 highest tiers: Kevin, Abram, Matt, Nashith, Denversteel, Gregory, John and Andrew. We can't thank you all enough for the support towards this channel and our short film. If you're interested in supporting yourself, you can do so via our Patreon page. There's a variety of tiers on there that you can choose from. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more Middle-earth content, and please head over to the Batcave to show some support on our latest venture. Show what the Brohirrim can do. Again guys, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day. I hope you had a fantastic new year, and I will see you next time on The Broken Sword.
Build me an army worthy of Mordor.